Welcome back to Brush Up Your Game. Today, I want to take a look at two cards from the base set of Dominion. Specifically, we're going to look at Gardens and Workshop. And yes, these cards go together. Let's kick it off with Gardens. You see Gardens out in the Kingdom, and you go, interesting. It's a 4 cost card, worth 1 victory point per 10 cards you have. Not different cards, just a count of 10 cards. So right away, it's worth 1 point. But you go, wait a second. Estates are worth 1 point, but they only cost 2. So why should I buy a Gardens? Well, it's because as you go through the game, your deck is typically going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. If you can make this worth even 3 points, it's now cheaper than a duchy. It's cheaper than a card that costs 5 and gives you 3 points. Now, the downside is gardens are sitting in your deck the whole time and they're slowing you down. You are explicitly going after a slog strategy when you play gardens. You have said from the get go, I am not trying to be hyper efficient. I am trying to have this game go as long as possible because every card I buy and put in my deck is helping my gardens work. That's the whole point of this. Gardens are not a complicated card, but they are complicated to play well. You have to know what else is in the game. You see, if there's trashing and hyper efficient deck play, if there's a village smithy combo, if there's something that really lets your opponent run fast, build that hyper efficient engine, gardens are not your play. Not at all. But if there's nothing going on, in fact, if there are cards in play that are going to give junk out, give that slog out, a mountebank, a witch even that's going to give a curse out, anything that's going to hand out copper to opponents. You can't guarantee that your opponent's going to buy those cards. But what you can do is react to your opponent doing those things and say, fine, you want to slow me down? I'll play the slow down game. Gardens are all about reacting to your opponent. So don't play into that. Instead, react to your opponent. Now, how do you make gardens even more efficient for you? You take a card like Workshop. It's a 3 cost card. Gain a card costing up to 4. Well, for one, you can use Workshop to gain a Gardens. That's a free thing. But more so, you can use Workshop early on. You can use Workshop to gain silver. You can use Workshop to build your engine. Workshop doesn't necessarily mean you're playing slog. It typically does. But Workshop can be a piece in an engine. It can be a piece in a combo. It's not your main combo piece, but it's a combo enabler piece. Workshop is not an amazing card. Don't get me wrong. Workshop works really well in a large deck scenario so that when you do see it, you're able to get something good from it. However, Workshop on its own does play a role, and it does let you get more of the cards that you want to get. It is very board dependent, kingdom setup dependent. And I think that's something we can take as a lesson for other variable setup games. Sometimes a card can be really amazing in a certain setup, but that doesn't mean it's always going to be really amazing. There are times where a card that we love can end up hurting us because it's not the best thing for the situation that we're in. Workshop shows us that. Gardens shows us that. In fact, on a big picture, I think all of Dominion shows us that. Sure, there are a few cards that are always amazing, but for the most part, there are a lot of cards that are very dependent on what else is involved with them. But yeah, I would say give Workshop a chance. Try it out. If you are always overlooking it, try Workshop. If nothing else, use it to gain silver. It plays into big money. I think it makes big money work just a little bit faster. It's not going to always help you, but it's an action card worth having. It slows you down a tiny bit at the early game, but I think what you lose in that initial draw, you're going to end up being a little faster at the end. Gardens, definitely a play for experience. Try playing them. Try the slog strategy. Just know that if it works for you one time, it may not work for you the next time. You really have to evaluate the board. We'll talk more about evaluating board states in the future. I want to get there, but we need to have a solid foundation of looking at cards and knowing what certain cards do and how they can help us and how they can't. Anyway, that has been a little bit of evaluation of 2 cards. Let me know what you think. Should I add a 3rd card into the mix? I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. And as always, as I'm just kind of setting this up, I'm always happy to hear your feedback. And other than that, thank you all for watching and keep brushing up your game.